Hey everyone, it's Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys a brand new 2023 album review. And today we're going to be talking about the new album from the band Nervosa entitled Jailbreak, which is out now through Napalm Records. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Nervosa, I talked about them before, their previous album that came out 2 years ago. They're a thrash metal, death metal band from Brazil. Been around since 2010. And I discovered Nervosa probably around 2016 or so. They've been putting out albums since their first album that came out in 2014, Victim of Yourself, which I thought was a pretty good debut. And then their next album, 2016's Agony, was, of course, the album that got me into the band because I knew my good friend Sam Landa, currently playing with Conquer Divide. Shout out to you, Sam, if you're watching this, was filling in for them, and she told me about him, dug what I heard. And then 2018, they put out Downfall of Mankind, which I thought was a bit of a kind of almost a darker album for them. But then it was around that time, like 2019 and 2020, when Fernanda Lira and Luana D'Ameto had left left Nervosa, and now they formed Crypta. But then their last album, Perpetual Chaos, in 2021, they had, of course, a new lineup with Diva Satanica on vocals, Mia Walsh on bass, and Ellen Coita, I can't remember her name, on drums, and I thought that was a pretty good lineup, but then they changed the lineup again, and now Prika is now taking up lead vocals on this, and then they have a second guitar player, Helena Cotta, Hellpire, who's a new bass player, and Michaela, I can never say her fucking last name, on drums. So they have like two members from Greece, and then their drummers from Bulgaria. And I was kind of curious, like, what's going to happen with this lineup, especially after, like, Diva left. I was getting used to her vocals and then who's going to sing, but then I remember hearing the first single, and I was like, wow, Prika's taking over lead vocals, and she actually sounds fucking fierce, I should say. Her vocal performance on here is just amazing. It's like she had, like, a lot of shoes to fill from the previous two vocalists that they had, but she really does a really good job on the vocals. And her guitar playing is really great, especially with Helen. Now that Nervosa has two guitar players now, I just think it just makes it sound a lot fuller and heavier, and there's a lot more they can do with now two guitarists. The bass on here is pretty audible, and funny enough, although Hellpire is a member of the band, she actually didn't play on the album. I heard it was Helena that tracked all the bass, which, because I know she actually filled in playing bass live after, like, Mia sort of, like, left the band. Well, I know she's playing with them occasionally. And drumming-wise, Michaela does a really great job on the drums. So, yeah, I pretty much rambled on for about 3 minutes, so let's just dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Endless Ambition, which I believe is, like, the first single released from this album. And I feel like they deliver a crunching blast of noise that shows the vocal power from Prika really well. And I feel like this is a great way to sort of introduce the new era of Nervosa, and I just think I'm really glad that they picked this as, like, the first, like, taste, being the first song on the album and being the first single. Then we go into Suffocare. Now, this song has some really great riffs, and this is a very riff-driven track. And when it gets to the chorus, I think both vocally and musically, I feel like the heaviness is really shown on here. And I really still love, like, the vocals. There's really a lot of layers here with, like, the different types of, like, the higher stuff and the lower stuff kind of mix in there. And it adds a lot of depth to it. And I love how the solo here is really powerful, and it gives the song, like, a lot of, like, juice. Excuse me. Moving on to Ungrateful. Now, this, in my opinion, is probably the most, like, old school sounding song. It pretty much really would go well in a live setting. I think if this was played live, it would just, like, get a circle pit going. From start to finish, I feel like the guitars really just shine all the way through. And this song also has, like, a chorus that gets right to the point. Next on the album is called Seed of Death. Now, this showcases the next evolution for Nervosa, especially like the intro, which is very melodic. And it has a really kind of a awesome chorus, which sounds a bit very anthemic too. Moving on to the title track of the album, Jailbreak. And funny enough, when I heard Jailbreak, I thought it's going to be like a fucking Thin Lizzy cover, but nope. Jailbreak, I feel like this is another kind of similar to Ungrateful. It's very old school sounding. Kind of reminds me a lot of, like, classic heavy metal, like Judas Priest, Motorhead, but also has a bit of the thrash metal, and all parts are just fucking awesome. And this is a kind of song that makes you want to just throw your horns up, bang your head, and just mosh. And the vibe on this song is really great. And I personally can't even begin to understand how you can't love this song. Like, the drums from Michaela are on point, going from double bass and to really thrashy downbeats, and all this combined with like the thick bass on there makes the track really classic in my opinion. Then we go into Sacrifice. Sacrifice is a really great song. I dig it. Same thing with Behind the Walls, another headbanging kind of song. Moving on to Kill or Die. Now, Kill or Die has a kind of like a runaway train pace about them, and I feel like this song just makes you want to headbang yet again. I keep saying headbanging a lot, but it's true. This is a headbanging album, and I really like this song. Kind of expands on their thrash, which kind of sounds like Destruction meets Overkill, and it meets a little bit of Dark Angel without coming across as a copy. Next up is When the Truth is a Lie. Now, this song features a guest guitar solo from Gary Holt from Exodus, formerly of Slayer. And this song, I think, is really good. And Gary sort of adds like a fresh taste with his solo. It's a very thick sounding track. Then we get to Superstition Fails. Now, this song features yet another guest appearance from Leaner Scissorhands, lead singer for the band Infected Rain. And this song is as savage as Nervosa comes, with sort of like Lena adding her own like aura to the track. And I feel like Nervosa doesn't need like guests to make a ton of noise, but the guests to this caliber doesn't like take away from like their abilities, if you know what I mean. Then we go into Gates to the Fall. Now, this song kind of sounds like really just death metal a little bit almost melodic death metal a little bit, like a la Arch Enemy. And the song is just really great with jumpy guitars, and then the drumming with the double kick is just insane. Elements of Sin. Now, this is one of the last single, I guess, for this album, or the latest video song. This song just sounds very almost doomy a little bit at parts, but also retains sort of that heaviness to it. And then we conclude with Nail the Coffin. Now, this song is a really great way to end this album, and most will be wiping the sweat from here, and I think it's a great way to end this album. Now, overall, Jailbreak by Nervosa is a pretty good album, I should say. Definitely a great introduction to this new era of Nervosa. So if I give this album a score, I'm going to give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to finally seeing Nervosa on the 70,000 Tons of Metal cruise. I will be finally going in like 4 months, so I hope to see everybody there. It'd be great to meet you all. And so yeah, that's my review of the new Nervosa album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.